Now, I think most of us will be aware of the phenomenon known as runner's high. This is when you've been out running for a few minutes. With me, it was always about 5 minutes or 3/4 of a mile, and I'd start perspiring a little bit, and then you get this rush, this great feeling that lasts for the rest of the exercise, and it's called the runner's high. And it's called by endorphins being released from the pituitary gland and then connecting to opiate receptors in the brain, which gives you this feeling of well-being, almost like a drug, almost like a high. Now, what I'm wondering is, does the same thing happen when you're out walking in the countryside? Does the same thing happen when you're out sitting in the countryside? I wonder. Now, we all know the benefits of being out in the countryside, this feeling of well-being, feeling of peace, just away from stresses and strains and rubbish at home. But is there such a thing as a countryside high? There's absolutely no doubt that being out for a daily walk in the countryside gives you a feeling of well-being, drags you away from the stresses and strains of life. It gives you exercise. Being out in the sunshine ups your intake of vitamin D. It's all good news. Being out in nature improves your general mood. It grounds us. It helps us connect to something bigger in the universe. It puts us in our place. It puts things in perspective. Actually, walking in nature reduces the feelings of stress and anger. Out walking in the countryside increases our oxygen intake. And yes, studies do show that walking in the countryside releases endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline, and all these things, just like a runner's high, make you feel better, make you feel good. I've been saying for ages, for years on my channel, get out in the countryside, 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 get out in the countryside. I won't tell you again. Get out in the country. I've said it again. And I've been proved right. It does do you good. But do you know that it's not only being out in the countryside, it's experiencing the countryside, looking at the countryside. You don't have to actually be out in it. Looking at the countryside, going for a car ride in the countryside, even just looking out the window at the countryside, looking at a picture of the countryside, reading a book at the countryside, watching something on the countryside on the television, even taking a plant into the house and nurturing it and looking after it releases endorphins, makes you feel good. It's just such a win-win situation, you can't describe it. I've been proved right. And I know, because I experience this every time I go out in the country. Why do you think I come on here? Year after year after year I've been doing this, telling people, get out in the countryside. I'm like your countryside physician. I've been telling everyone to do this. And it's right. I've been proved right. And I hope it hasn't fallen on deaf ears. I mean, a lot of people just already are out in the countryside. I know that lots of people appreciate it and are loving it, no matter what part of the world you're in. If you're in a city, tend the window box. Look at the sky on a nice day. And you will notice a feeling of well-being. It is so important. I've been proved so right. Not to you, to myself. Because I thought it all these years. I never really thought about. I was a runner for many years. I used to pack in lots and lots of miles, and it always used to happen to me, this feeling. And I get the same kind of feeling, not as intense, when I'm out in the countryside. And I thought it was just being out. Being away from stresses, being in nature, listening to the birds' song, smelling the grass, smelling the air, seeing the buds on the trees. No, all this time, I'm a druggie. In a good way. I was out yesterday and I noticed at last, and I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, that I have a feeling that spring is here. Spring is surely on its way. And then yesterday I went out and I saw the blackthorn blossom was out, and I looked round and there's buds on the trees, on the hawthorn, those tiny little green, very, very light green buds. And if you look close, you can see the flowers, the foliage, the leaves opening up slightly. Laurel, there are great fat buds on the laurels. I'm looking across now and I can see the daffodils are out. There's lots and lots of snowdrops. And the birds are singing, and it's like I've said before, it's not a call, it's not the warning call that we've had over winter, a call when you walk past and they're telling each other, watch out, human. No, it's bird song, it's the mating calls, attracting a mate, this beautiful song. And when you listen in the morning and it starts, and I've found out when I say that the bird song starts with one and then another and then another, and it increases until you've got this complete cacophony of noise, this beautiful bird song. Apparently a lot of that is because some birds have better eyesight than others, so they kind of perceive things around them early in the morning, and that's when they begin to sing. So that's why. I mean, the ones that come in later should have gone to Specsavers. But I just had to just share that with you. Yes, it's true. It's been proven that being out in the countryside, experiencing the countryside, releases endorphins into your system, just like running, just like vigorous exercise. Not on a bigger scale, but it's there. And that's where this feeling of well-being, that's where some of this feeling of well-being comes from. Just makes you want to get out there. Just makes you want to go for that car ride. Make a flask and some sandwiches, go for a car ride. Read a book that's got pictures of the countryside. Watch a nature programme on the television. Take a plant in. Look after a plant. That gives you a great feeling of well-being anyway. Looking after something living. It's great, isn't it? The doctor will see you now. Get out there. Have a good one. It's been pouring down where I am in Lancashire, and we've got one fine afternoon. We went out early this morning and Molly got absolutely drenched, and I did as well. And she didn't want to come out, and she curled up in a basket next to the fire. And then I just showed her a lead a while ago, and she got up and she ran to the door. So we're out now in the countryside, and there's bird song, and it's fabulous. And it's proven that it is medically good for you. It is chemically good for you. It is spiritually good for you. It is physically good for you. You've no excuse. Get out in the countryside. We will see you on the flip. Peace and love.